you have a workspace in your home, whether that's an apartment that you rent or a home that you own, you may be eligible to write off some business use of home expenses. There is one big rule, and that is that your workspace has to only be used for business purposes. So working from your couch on your laptop, for example, or doing some work at your kitchen table does not count. It can be inside your main living area or a separate building on the property. You can rent or be a homeowner. The only thing that matters to the CRA is that it is a dedicated workspace that is only ever used for business activities. If you do happen to have a space like that in your home, the Canadian Small Business Bookkeeping System can help you determine what percentage of your various home expenses are eligible for write-off as business expenses. This is done on the home expenses sheet, and a lot of this sheet can be automated through things that you set up on the settings and rules page. So let's start there. You're going to scroll down to line 21 where you will see home office amounts, and it's okay if it's not an office, if it's a workspace or a studio, it all works the same. The first thing you will need to know is what the square footage of your home is in total, and that includes any exterior buildings, as well as the square footage of your home office, workspace, studio, whatever it might be. The exterior buildings could be a separated detached garage. You might have a workshop that is not attached to your house, but is where you do your work for your business, or a studio. If you're sitting there thinking, I have literally no idea what square footage my home is, you can estimate. For example, if you live in an apartment with 2 bedrooms, a kitchen and a living room that are both approximately the size of 2 bedrooms each, and a bathroom that is about half the size of your bedroom, then you could say that you live in an apartment with approximately 6.5 bedroom-sized units of space. If one of those bedrooms is your home office and not used for anything else, then out of your 6.5 units, 1 is being used for business purposes. That would give you a business use percentage of about 15%, which means that you can write off 15% of your various home expenses. This can be really helpful to reduce how much taxes you have owing at the end of the year. And I should note that your business use percentage should be reasonable. If you were trying to tell the CRA that 60% of your home is used for only business purposes and therefore you can write off that much, they're going to want to see some serious evidence to back that up. But back to the settings sheet, you'll enter the total square footage of your home here in cell B22, and then the square footage of just your workspace in B23, and then the system will automatically calculate for you what the percentage is. So let's say I was doing the estimation version where I was saying approximately 6.5 units of space, and then one of them is for business use, then it's going to calculate that right here. And then this number right here gets automatically ported over to your home expenses sheet for calculating what percentage of your expenses can be written off. If you have any recurring payments that are the same every month, such as your home insurance, you can enter these from B25 through to B28. And then these, again, will get automatically ported over to the home expenses sheet, which will save you some time over having to manually enter that amount for every month. For expenses that are annual, such as mortgage interest paid or property taxes, just take the total number at the end of the year and then divide it by 12, and then you can put that number in here, and again it will automatically port that over to the home expenses sheet. If there are any expenses that don't apply to your situation here, just leave those 0 or blank. And also, if it's an amount that varies every single month, like let's say for your hydro, for your electricity, you're not on an equal payment plan and you just pay for what you use every month, just leave it as 0 and then you can manually update it on the sheet. One other thing to note is that this is not an exhaustive list of what you can write off for your business use of home. There is also another category called Other, where you can write off things like internet, security monitoring, rent paid. And then just like how we can set up rules for how to categorize our business expenses over here, we can also set up rules for how to categorize various home expenses in this section. It works exactly the same as the business expense rules. There's actually just less to set up. So you add the keyword that the system should look for in column A, and then you tell it how it should categorize that in column B. So for example, if your internet service provider is Rogers, then you can tell the system that anything on the home expenses sheet that is from Rogers should get categorized as Other. Let's go over to the home expenses sheet so that you can see how this works in action. So up at the top, we have the square footage of the home as well as the office space or home workspace, and then the percentage of your home that your workspace occupies. And all of this is automatically ported over from the settings sheet. Now, let's say that you move halfway through the year. Let's say that in July you move to a new apartment or you buy a house and suddenly the square footage situation changes. No problem. You can just manually update them here. And then again, the system will automatically calculate the percentage. You don't need to put that in. You just need to put in your total square footage of your home or your best guesstimate of how many units of space we're talking here. And then the square footage or the units that are just for your workspace. Just be aware that if you manually enter a number on these lines, it will remove the bit of code that is automatically porting the number over from the settings and rules sheet, so it won't update automatically again in the future. This is why I always say to keep a blank base version of the system and then generate a new copy from that for every tax year. You can fill in your settings and rules sheet on your base version, and then that way you don't have to fill that in again every single year. But everything else on the monthly overviews and pretty much all of the other sheets that you actually interact with and add things to, just leave those blank. And then every time a new tax year rolls around, make a new version of the system to work with. That's how I do it. That's the most efficient way I've found of working with the system. Below the square footage, we have our various home expenses, and then the lines in bold are what you can actually write off. So it breaks it down on a monthly basis, and then you get your annual total in this column over here. And the system automatically calculates that for you based on what you had spent in a specific category times how much of your living space is your workspace. That's how it arrives at this number down here. It multiplies this one by this, and we get this number. And the system does it for you, so you don't have to get out your calculator and figure it all out yourself. The CRA isn't going to let you live mortgage or rent free just for having a workspace in your home, but these expenses do typically add up to a fairly significant amount. Like, I haven't even filled in the whole year here, and this is already what the write-off is for this hypothetical person/business. So I think it's definitely worth doing. Any expenses that you had set up a recurring amount for on the settings and rules sheet will have been automatically applied. So for example, insurance was set up as $150 a month on the settings sheet, and you can see that's already been applied to every month of the year. Same for property tax, which was an annual total that got broken down by 12 months. Same with the mortgage interest. These have already all been filled in because they're on the settings and rules sheet. What about everything else? How does that get recorded? The expenses log starts down here on line 39, and this is where you can record anything that isn't a recurring expense that you hadn't already set up on the settings and rules sheet. If you've already set it up there, don't enter it in this log as well, because then the amount would get recorded twice. This is very similar to logging your business expenses. You'll note the date that the payment was made, who it was made to, what the amount was, and then what the category should be. You can also link up your receipt in your storage folder here and add any notes that are relevant. Remember that if you have a rule set up on the settings sheet, then the system will automatically categorize it for you. Let's take a look at that. So you see it automatically applied the category of electricity to it for me here. And then I would put the link to my receipt over here. And that's really it for home expenses. At the end of the year, your total over here in cell N37 is what you can write off for your business use of home. So hopefully that can help you get some more write-offs when it comes to the end of the year and it's time to file your taxes. As always, any questions at all, just send me an email and ask.